Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight and for joining us. This is my first time conducting a meeting for the board, so feel free to jump in if I miss anything or if I need to correct anything. I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting on June 9th at 5:35 p.m. Dottie, would you please conduct a roll call to ascertain a quorum, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Here.
Member Jan Schubert,
Here.
and Secretary Dottie McKinney here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, so we can move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Karen, can you post the flag for that?
Sure can.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have just a few. I know we have Whitney and Tina we have one other member from the public. Do we have anyone? Is there anyone that wants to comment on the agenda?
So if you're an attendee and would like to make a public comment about an item on the agenda tonight, please raise your digital hand. You can go to the bottom of your screen and click the raise hand icon, and it would be about items on the agenda. There's another public comments opportunity at the end of the meeting for items not on the agenda, but under the board's purview. Vice Chair Anderson, I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, so we can move on. Let's move to approving the current agenda. So I move to approve the current agenda as posted. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. The agenda. So, Dottie, can you run a vote so we can ascertain
Yes,
approval of the agenda?
yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. And the next item on the agenda, I believe, let's see, is going to be 5, or it's approval of the meeting minutes. So 4. Do we have any discussion on that or any questions? Okay. I looked over the minutes and they looked good. So I move to approve the meeting minutes from the May 12th meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Anderson, I just neglected to say I did add a note to I'm sure you've seen it, but I just want to highlight it in case anyone didn't. I did add a note to the meeting minutes because we discussed last meeting about the observation of the governing board, and I did add in red a note that says we received a revised report. So I just wanted wanted you to be sure everyone knows that that was added to your minutes because that occurred after the meeting. So I've provided a link to an updated observation report that was corrected and updated by CSD on the minutes. And if you've read it, you've seen it, but I just wanted to point that out in case.
Okay.
Thank you.
We don't need to take any other action on that? Okay. Does anyone have any questions about it before we move on? Okay. Dottie, can you conduct a roll call vote to approve the May 12th meeting minutes?
Yes, Chair Heather Anderson, Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Okay. Our next agenda item is 5A, the monthly financial packet. If we can promote Whitney Sanchez to the panel.
Hi, Whitney.
Hello.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for coming.
Of course, that took a second for it to switch over this time.
Oh.
All right. I will share screen. And as Karen and Jake mentioned we did review this in Finance Committee last week with Bill and Patrick. We have a few bars to review that weren't reviewed in previous meetings, but that have been marked approved in OBMS with your blanket bar approval that you gave on April 14th. So I will go through those first. We had a bar increase for food services. Of course, the expenditures are going to food. This is to reflect actual revenues received for USDA reimbursement. The next bar is a maintenance bar for Idea B. So maintenance bars are net zero at the bottom. We are just moving expenses from one line to another. And this one is to allocate some of the expenses that were placed on the salary line to the associated payroll liabilities with those salaries. So it's not a change in the budget, just a change in the line items. Um, the next one is another maintenance bar. The same thing. This is for Title II teacher principal training. All of the budget was placed on the salary expense line, but we have to allocate it down to the associated payroll liabilities to match those expenses. The next one is an increase for Title II teacher principal training. We, at this time of year, it's very common we get final allocations. Sometimes they increase prior year carryover amounts or current year awards. And so this increase of $14,822 is going to a partial teacher salary expense and liabilities associated with that. The next one is another increase. This is for Title IV, increase of about $3,500. The same thing, a partial salary. This is for an instructional assistant and the associated payroll liabilities. The next one is also an increase for Title I of almost $31,000. Most of your federal funds already go to salaries and benefits. Most of the time it isn't supplies or anything like that. So we're going to fund a partial instructional assistant salary out of Title I with this increase and the benefits that go with it. And this one is another increase to the operational fund for $615,000. This is the hold harmless allocation that we have been waiting on for some time now. So another increase to the operational fund. The way this one was allocated, we knew of some expenses, such as the tax liability that we talked about for that penalty. We know of a few things that are coming through at the end of the year for additional expenses. And then the last portion of this is being allocated to other services. Originally, when we proposed the FY27 operational budget, we projected zero cash carryover. But after this increase, we are going to project about $400,000 of cash carryover. And then when we get our audited financials, it will true up to our actual final cash balance as of June 30th. And this is just a bar listing of all of the bars we've seen this year. When we met as a finance committee on Thursday, it was faster to run this report and go down the list of the bars that were submitted in OBMS. And since then, we've had time to put copies of the actual bars in the packet. So this is just a high-level summary of all of the bars so far this year. And even since I ran this report, we've done, I don't know, Jake, probably 4 more bars. So this is a busy time for bars. That's why that blanket approval in April is so important. This is your check report for all of the checks that were written in the month of May. we reviewed this in Finance Committee. Like I said, this ACES is 2 invoices for Vertex. This other one, Genuine Foods, is multiple invoices. Other than that, nothing really stands out as extraordinary, except for this IRS penalty payment. And as far as that goes, because we did talk about it last month, Haley got in touch with the IRS. We were trying to urge them, as they do sometimes with personal income taxes, if you owe and you agree to pay in cash upfront, then they'll reduce the amount that they want from you. They explained that our only option was to appeal. Uh, and so if we appealed, we didn't know how long it would take to go through the appeals process. And if we didn't pay it, then we face the risk of that levy and additional fines and penalties and interest. They did explain that if we paid in full by the due date and appealed and won, then they would refund anything that was overpaid. So Haley did reach out to the previous business manager and obtain copies of W-2s and 941s, and she did find that there were some mismatches, which is what the IRS said was the reason for the penalties. So we still have some work to do to cross-check everything, but it does sound like at least a portion of this penalty is legitimate. And then these are your payroll liabilities, your direct deposit payments, your IRS payments. Nothing out of the ordinary here, except for in the month of May. This was a month where we had some special payrolls that we processed for some of the stipend awards that we received. And we needed to get those paid out before the deadline to spend so that we could then request reimbursement. The next few pages are it's the same information, just greater detail. So I'm going to scroll through these. And of course, you can email me anytime with questions. Oh, yes, I remember. This ran into many extra pages because of formatting. Almost there. Okay. Projected operational expenditures, we are estimating to spend under budget in the operational fund. All of our federal flow through, some of our special awards that we've received, the goal is to get them 100% spent by June 30th, prior to June 30th, if possible, so that then we could do our RFRs. Like I said, most of your federal funds are salaries, so that's just a matter of processing the summer payrolls, marking them in active fund, and then submitting the reimbursements. We want to receive as many reimbursements as we can before June 30th so that we don't have a giant accounts receivable listing for the audit, but sometimes it does happen and we'll have some receivables at the end of the year just because of the timing of spending down for payrolls. Your current year revenue budget is the 19 million. This doesn't take into account that bar that we just saw. As far as bars go, I did want to mention too, they get entered into APTA and are reflected in these financial statements once they're approved by PED, not the day that we enter them into OBMS. So we enter them into OBMS. Jake approves, you all approve, then they go to several people at PED depending on what they are. So it isn't a same day thing. Sometimes it could take weeks for them to approve the bar. So they always don't get reflected in your financial statements because we have to use the date that it was approved by PED. And we're into June and we're only reporting as of May 31st. So some of them have been approved since the reports were generated. You do have a month and a half of cash in your operational fund. And again, just your revenue, we're almost to the end of the year. So you will see this current year revenue get up to your budgeted revenue. No significant changes on this slide. We I mean, we touched on it in Finance Committee, but you can see everything is consistent month over month for the entire year, so no drastic changes here. And this is your revenue report, so this is what drives the graphs on the previous page. So I'm going to click through here. This next report is your statement of revenue and expenditure and change in fund balance. That's more of like a government finance term. It's basically your income statement. You can see your net position as of today, May 31st. And this is all funds. Really, we should run this report next month and not include zero funds because it just takes up unnecessary space in the report. So I will make a note of that. Your bank account does reconcile. And you had about 3.5 million in the bank at the end of the month. One thing I did note this in Finance Committee, and rather than scrolling back up, I kept pointing out that we don't encumber revenue, yet there was a small amount encumbered for a few months. We did clear that, so it's gone. If you go back up to the revenue page and want to look at it yourself, it was an operational fund, so we did clear that. And then some of these are things that have cleared your account. And then I will show you on the next page because this is something that you all requested that after a few months of them sitting there, we cleaned up some of your stale checks. We reissued payment for stale checks. The only thing with this payroll check was that when you reprint out of payroll, it uses the same date as the date that you reprinted. So we need to do a special adjustment so that it puts a fresh date on that check because it still looks stale. This is just some of the things that happened in your bank reconciliation so that we could reissue some payments. And for Fiber Platform, we're paying them via ACH, and for some reason they kept getting sent back via ACH in the bank, even though everything matched exactly as it said on the invoices. So we switched them back to paper checks and we mailed them a printed check for their invoices. This is the same information. This is everything that cleared the bank in the month of May, just with greater detail again, so that you could see account codes for everything that cleared. You could see what fund it came out of, which is the most important thing. And this is your actual bank statement. This should all tie to exactly what you see in the system generated bank reconciliation report. And that's it for your regular financial statements and bars. You're on mute, Heather.
I am muted. I apologize. I'm so used to being muted that I just didn't even think about it. Thank you, Whitney, for coming. I appreciate it. I know that Bill and Patrick are not able to make it tonight, but Karen and Jake, since you were at the financial committee meeting, do you have anything else you want to add, or any? And Karen, and Jan, do you have any questions? Dottie.
No, thank you.
Okay.
I
So
I don't have anything to add, Vice Chair, but just so you know, there's another item after this that was also discussed in some detail at the Finance Committee meeting, but Ms.
And that's
Sanchez will
the
be
salary
presenting the
schedules,
salary
correct?
schedules.
Okay.
So that was
Before we
also
move to that,
discussed.
sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to point out for the record that that was also discussed at the Finance Committee meeting, but we do need an approval of reports and bars at this point.
Right, that's what I was going to ask. So let's see if I have. Let me know if I don't have the language correct, Karen, but I move to approve the financial packet and the bars as discussed in item 5A and B. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thanks. Is there any other questions or comments or discussion? Okay. Dottie, would you conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
So we can move on then to item 5C, which is the salary schedules.
Oh, let's see if I can click there. I don't know how to move this. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so we did some rework on the salary schedules, just to allow for some more transparency so that staff can see. Originally, when we prepared the salary schedule, we did the mandated pay increases anywhere from 1 to 2.5%. And then we adjusted for the reduction in number of days on the salary schedule. But this one aligns, everybody will be able to see where they land on this salary schedule. So when we do the calculations, this one is more transparent as far as you can see your licensure level, your years of experience, your education, and all of the teachers will fall exactly on the salary schedule. In the previous salary schedule and calculation for next year, the requirement is that the teachers meet the minimum state mandated salaries, and then they can't make below the salary schedule. And so previously everyone was making above the salary schedule, but they couldn't see exactly where they landed. So we reworked it so that was no longer the case. This is the salary schedule for the teachers reworked, and this is the reworked salary schedule for the educational assistants. Both are based on 186 days. And I can share, as long as I don't click. Okay. I could share the process for the calculations. So this is your FY26 salary schedule. We applied the percentage increases to those amounts. We divided that by 195 days to get the daily rate if it were still 195 days after the pay increases. We multiplied that out by 186 days. This was the original proposed salary schedule for FY27. And so the salaries that were calculated with the pay increases, when you look at the total for all of the teachers, we were paying about $68,000 above the salary schedule. But they couldn't see that they couldn't see themselves on the salary schedule. So now with this recalculation, so that everybody can see themselves on the salary schedule, there's a little bit of a change between what was originally proposed for FY27 and the recalculated. The biggest thing to call out is it did go up in most cases, but then as you get down to the more years of experience, it does go down on that corner of the salary schedule. However, everybody did get either a 1 or 2.5% raise, and then the reduction down to 186 days. And now everybody will fall on the actual salary schedule, which means we were already $68,000 above the salary schedule. And now to make it work like this, we're looking at about another $68,000 for salaries so that everybody will land on the schedule. And then after you calculate ERB, RHC, the federal taxes, it comes out to roughly $88,000 additional. And then same process for EAs. And I don't want to accidentally click on one of these tabs because it does have names and I cannot put those up on the screen. So, in short, more transparent. Everybody will land on the salary schedule rather than us just saying you make more than what is on the salary schedule, but you can't see. It doesn't match dollar, excuse me, dollar for dollar to the salary schedule. But that does mean that it's going to cost the school about $88,000 dollars more.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Jake, do you have a recommendation? I mean, I assume this was discussed at length at the finance committee meeting, and I think that group does recommend approval if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah,
Um,
and I can chime in too that the part of this is the balancing between the essentially the two sides of the circumstance here, which is both we have to correct a bit for a salary schedule that had some odd jumps built into it throughout. So there was odd just in the sense that they were not even year to year to year. I think sometimes we gave a little bit of extra jump for people who were going from a year one to a year two. And what we need to start doing, I think, if I can articulate this well enough, Whitney, is that the staff who stay with us, there's they get the annual raises and percentage increases and things that are going to go from year to year to year. But it doesn't mean that we necessarily want to try to keep pace with that with all the new staff that start with us. And that's where this year, that's what we were trying to correct into, which is the starting for new staff is a bit lower than returning staff because we were not factoring in the raises, and we were trying to essentially lower those steps down a bit. As a comparison, if you jump on district websites like APS or Rio Rancho, they go up by $1 each year. Ours goes up by I think $117, $118 each year, and there was an iteration where it went up 250 a year. So we were trying to support a little bit bigger jumps from year to year, so teachers over time could really feel the impact of their years of experience. We had to peel it back a little bit, but also trying to not get down to like $1 more per year.
Mhm.
So we figured this year was the good year to try to sync everything up to the 186 contractual days with the returning staff and the new staff because it was that 1% increase. But we know ahead of time that next year we can't anticipate what increase they might mandate. We do know there's like a 27% jump to NMIPSIA. So we're going to have to start working over the course of next school year and helping returning staff to see that there will be some divergence between what new staff are earning and what returning staff will be earning so that we can make sure returning staff have all of the requirements built into what we need to do to help them out, but we're also utilizing that new staff salary schedule to sort of balance that a little bit budgetarily.
Yeah, I think you said that great. And keeping in mind that even in FY27, we're now required to pay 80% of the insurance premiums. So we're already paying 80% of the insurance premiums for all staff, which wasn't always the case. And then next year, when it goes up 27%, then we're covering the majority of the insurance premiums with another increase.
And similarly, for the board to see like as you're thinking about budgetary decisions, especially for next year, is even this one, which seemed like a jump to covering 80%. They estimated what they would need to pass legislatively to cover the cost of that. Spring budget workshop, they said they didn't get it right in terms of being able to make sure it was covered. So it's on the schools operational to figure out how to cover what was not covered by the increase in the SEG. And in addition to that, we don't know in terms of how they calculated it. I've already had a couple of staff reach out and say, we're probably going to jump off my spouse's insurance and on to NMIPSIA insurance because paying 80% of it is going to be way better for us as a family to budget for that. So I don't even know if they calculated in the number of people that would probably bail from a spouse's insurance to NMIPSIA on there. And so as much as they say we try to calculate this into your SEG, they were transparent and they recognized the fact that it doesn't cover it. And so we're always sort of having to catch up out of our operational in the differences of these costs.
Thank you. Karen, I'm assuming we don't need to take any action on the discussion of the salary schedules. Is that correct?
We do need to approve the revised teacher salary schedule and the EA salary schedule.
Okay. So I move to approve the revised teacher and education assistants salary schedules. Is there a second?
Yes.
Thanks, Jen. Any other questions or comments or discussion on that before we have a vote? Dottie, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you. The salary schedules, revised salary schedules have been approved. And we are, and Whitney, I know you have something else later tonight, right?
I do.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Whitney, bye.
So we can move on to the next item, which is item 6A, the IFB for school-owned vehicle sale.
Yeah, and I don't know if Tina wants to move forward, but I'm going to go ahead and bring her to the panel as the CPO
Okay.
and share with you the news. But as you know, we had an IFB for the SUV, and we did get an offer. And so I think Mr. O'Keefe is here in the audience because we let him know we would be awarding it tonight. So there is a award notification letter on your agenda, but in summary, and I'm representing on behalf of Director Hughes. She's not available this evening, so but I was helping her on this committee along with CPO Kozlowski. It was by sealed bid. The minimum acceptable was 42 grand, as you know. And the vehicle was offered as is with what we're going to remove the decals. And award was to the highest responsive bidder. We did get a bid from Mr. O'Keefe for $44,100. And so that is the winning bidder and is prepared to purchase the vehicle with your approval this evening. But the board is required to approve all procurement purchases of this nature. So Tina and I and Ms. Hughes were present for the bid opening. It was not attended by anyone in the public, but we were there and Tina opened it. Tina has reached out to Mr. O'Keefe and we stand for any questions, but ask for approval so we can move forward with the sale.
Okay. Well, first, welcome, Mr. O'Keefe. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Dottie and Jan, do you have any questions or comments about the sale?
Oh,
I am pleased that we were able to sell the vehicle. So I will go ahead and move to approve the recommendation to award to Mr. Thomas O'Keefe as the highest responsive and responsible bidder in accordance with IFB 2526-002. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dottie. Any further discussion or questions? Dottie, would you conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
The motion passes.
Congratulations, Mr. O'Keefe. You own a new vehicle. Ms. Kozlowski will be in touch with you to set up. We have to schedule I think Ms. Hughes is scheduling the time to have the decals removed and then scheduling a time for payment and exchange of the vehicle. So
Nice.
Thank you. Okay, so we can move on to item 6B, the RFP for student transportation.
And again, on this RFP, this was for your buses to and from school. As you recall, we did an RFP last year, but we neglected to include the 3 years of extension renewal that's allowed. And so we did it in this RFP. Again, we received one response, although we did have questions from others. We actually got one response, and it was from Herrera, your current provider. So on the agenda, we did have a evaluation, completed the evaluation. Ms. Kozlowski, again, Ms. Hughes and I think. Was that it, Tina? On the RFP for the bus? I can't remember who evaluated those. I think it was Tina, Lisa, and me, maybe Jake.
That's correct. Yes, Karen.
Okay. And then we still have to go through the evaluation process, but and they scored as adequate. And so you have two contracts, if you may recall. This is a PED uh, boilerplate contract that's required by the PED. One is for 18 buses and one is for 2 buses. You may recall that we have some students who live out of the geographic area of the APS district, and PED interprets that as not eligible riders. So you have a separate contract for those 2 buses that have to go into Rio Rancho or Bernalillo, wherever it is. We've tried to move as many bus stops onto the border of Rio Rancho for those that live close to the Albuquerque border so that we don't have to have more buses that are being paid separately. And then again, I would like to review the memorandum of understanding as Director Hughes and I have made some minor changes to the one that you had last year, if you don't mind.
No, please go ahead.
I'd like to share my screen because I think that would be a little bit easier. What's this? Are you seeing memorandum of understanding?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the same as last year. If you recall, we drafted this MOU, Director Hughes and I, in response to concerns that perhaps our bus contractor was not following all of the statutes and regulations. And those statutes and regulations say your school is responsible to make sure that's happening. So to reduce risk and liability on part of the school, we drafted this MOU that primarily just contains the requirements that they are required to do out of statute. So all of this is the same as last year. The only change is that we propose to add this language about including first aid and CPR. That is in the NMAC, the code, but I wanted to highlight that to make, I don't mean highlight it in yellow, this is just the change, but make sure that it's specifically listed there that they have to do first aid and CPR certification as well, to make sure they're catching that in that NMAC. And then we also have implemented, Director Hughes has implemented a system whereby the students have numbers, I think it's numbers by their name that indicate some sort of a health condition or a specific need to know about that particular student from another list so that the list doesn't show their confidential information, but the bus driver who needs to know has access to what those confidential circumstances are, particularly things like health conditions primarily. So we just wanted to add that is expected that the driver review and understand those details. So in case of an emergency on the bus, they know how to interpret that. I'm not saying that's not happening. We just didn't have it outlined in here before. And then I think the only other, oh no, PED is offering training to bus drivers now, particularly around the area of de-escalation of student behaviors and de-escalating students, which the PED is suggesting very strongly that bus drivers attend their training this summer. We don't have, as of last I knew, we didn't have the dates and specifics yet, but I wanted to be sure that we include that they should attend applicable training when offered by PED. And then this just said of the school year, but I put of the contract term. And those are the only proposed changes. Otherwise, you approved this MOU last year. And as I said, it outlines statutes and regulations already in place. So the ask tonight is to approve the award of the RFP, the draft contracts, and this MOU. So that we can submit all of that to PED and move forward, get planning for transportation.
So if I'm understanding correctly, then Karen, we need to, since we did the IFB approval, we need to go over the contracts and the memorandum of understanding now to approve.
No, the first one was for the sale of the vehicle. So you do have to do for item B, you're going to have to approve the award of the RFP to Herrera and the contracts and MOU.
Okay, and do those need to be separate or can we do those all together?
You could do them together unless somebody has a concern and wants to separate something.
Okay. Dottie and Jan, do you have any concerns or want to separate, or are we Good to
I
move
think it's
forward with
okay.
everything?
Just to do one is fine.
Okay.
Yes.
So I move to approve the RFP award to Herrera, the contract for 18 buses, the contract for 2 buses, and the memorandum of understanding. Is there a second, please?
I second.
It's your turn. Thank you.
Every other.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone before we go ahead to the vote? Dottie, can you conduct a roll call vote to approve those items, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, awesome, Tina. They didn't have lots of questions, so I'll send you back to the attendees. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. That brings us
And
to, oh, go ahead, Karen.
go ahead.
I was going to say that just brings us to item 6C, which is concerns regarding prior school business officials. Is there anything to discuss about that?
I would propose that you table this item because I think it would be important to have Patrick and, Chair Molina and Mr. Brown in attendance because they are on the Finance Committee.
Okay.
And I think it would be more appropriate to have that discussion with them present.
Okay. So I move to table item 6C until our next meeting in July so that our Chair Molina and Member Bill Brown might be present for that discussion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dottie. If there if there isn't any other further discussions or questions about that, will you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Okay. That brings us to item 6D, which is our closed session. So we can spend just a few. This will be a quick session, so we can discuss the items there. We need to have a board vote to enter into closed session. So I move to enter a closed session for the purpose of discussing limited personnel matters, specifically the SY26 evaluations and school year 27 contracts for head administrator and director of operations as permitted under section 10-15-1 H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. Do I have a second, please?
A second.
Thank you. Dottie, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Welcome back. I think we have everyone back that needs to be here. So I move to close the closed session held for the purpose of discussing limited personnel matters, specifically the school year 26 evaluations and school year 27 contracts for head administrator and director of operations. We didn't discuss anything else other than what is on the agenda. As permitted under section 10-15-1 H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Dottie, will you please conduct a roll call vote to close the closed session?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you. So we're moving on to sections 6, the E and F, the evaluations and contract renewals, and we'll have 3 separate motions related to what we discussed in the closed session. So the first is that I move to table the discussion and any action on the evaluations for the head administrator, director of operations, and discussion of the governing board's self-assessment until our next meeting in July when Chair Molina and Member Bill Brown can join us. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dottie, can you conduct a roll call vote for that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Jan Schubert,
Aye.
Dottie McKinney, aye.
Okay, motion is approved. And we can go to the next, and I move to approve the renewal of the contract for head administrator as discussed in our closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jen.
Someone.
Dottie, will you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you. We'll move to our third motion, and I move to approve the renewal of the contract for Director of Operations as discussed in closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Dottie. Dottie, will you conduct a roll call vote for that, please?
Yes. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you. We can move then to under contract renewals, which is item 6F, number 3, to discuss school business officials. And after that, we'll have number 4, the legal counsel. So Karen, is that, or Jake, is that you?
Could be either, but really it's a formality. As you know, you've recently approved a contract and service agreement for Vertex Education via their ACES contract. And it's from 26 through 29, but you are required to renew, the board is required to renew and approve each year. And so this is a formality really, but unless you have a problem with Vertex that you want to discuss, but I would ask for a motion to approve the renewal for the FY27 school year.
Okay. And that's the ACES contract, correct?
Well, it's the Vertex contract. It's done
Vertex,
through
okay.
ACES. And what that
Okay.
means is rather than doing an RFP, we used an existing procurement agreement through the ACES company.
Okay. For the fiscal year 26-27, or
Yes.
just 27?
Well, it's fiscal year 27, but it is the
27.
26-27 school year. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think I have it. So I move
Okay.
to approve the Vertex contract for the fiscal year 27. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Dottie, can you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you.
What does ACES contract stand for? Remind me.
I don't know if I actually
ACES.
know. Association of Charter Education Services or
Okay,
something like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Through
that might
PED
be-
is okay. All right.
They're a cooperative, like
Okay.
CES. They're
Okay.
They're like CES, but they more focus on charter schools, but
Okay.
very similar. They do procurement and then have available services so that you can avoid having to do a more costly RFP because they've already done it. So the next one, Vice Chair Anderson, on number 4, legal counsel, is very similar to the Vertex Education. As you may recall, we did an RFP last year. The board voted to approve it, the award to Miss Matthews, Patricia Matthews, and it has a renewal option for up to 3 years at the same rate as listed in the SY26 contract. And so my request would be, unless there's a concern about legal services, that we approve the extension for the FY27 school year as we did just previously for Vertex Education. The RFP was last year, but it has a 3-year extension option.
Okay. Dottie and Jan, do either of you have any comments or questions before I make a motion?
no, I do
I
not.
think so.
Okay. Then I move to approve the extension for the fiscal year 27 of the contract for Miss Matthews. Is there a second?
Sure.
Thank you. I've asked this already, but just to make sure I'm doing things in the right order, is there any other discussions or questions before we vote? Dottie, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Heather Anderson,
Aye.
Dan Schubert,
Aye.
and Dottie McKinney, aye.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 6G, the board committee reports, if we have any. We've been through the finance reports and we don't have Chair Molina or Bill Brown with us. Is Karen and Jake, do you have anything you want to add on the finance committee or audit committee?
No, the only other thing that would matter I'll address during my administrative report.
Okay. And as in terms of facilities committee, Dottie, I don't know if you saw the email from Ralph, but we'll be meeting with Ralph Lovato next week to get an update on everything that he is doing. So we'll have more at the July meeting. Dottie, did you have anything else you want to add?
No, I'm anxious to meet and see how things are going. So thank
Okay.
you.
That brings us. Oh, this is something that I failed to bring up when we were approving the agenda, and it is not anything substantial, but we jumped from item 6 to item 8 on the administration staff report.
I fixed that today, so you
Did
printed
you?
before
Okay,
I
good.
fixed it.
Okay, so if I say 7, then we're not going, no one will be confused. I won't confuse myself. Let's go then to item 7, the school leader report, and other items there. Jake, do you want to take over?
Sure, thank you. So what was shared here, we have a couple things that I wanted to go over this evening. The first one is that what's shared here obviously is the social media report. Again, I think the social media work that's happening is great. And you can see on the metrics that were presented. And as a part of this, let me jump over and see if I can share screens real quick, if that's worth taking a peek at. Yeah, and the reason why we're tracking this so much is because we know that one of the things that has impacted the school year over year is not meeting our enrollment projections. And this year was one of the harder ones that we had projected 1,510, we had 1,418, and that misprojection was big. And so for next year, for this coming year, which crazy enough is like in 6 weeks, 7 weeks is when we start the next school year, when we are aiming for our 40th day, we are aiming for just maintaining at 1418 K-12. We did not project any growth because we specifically didn't want to fall again in like a big jump expectation and then not meeting it and then having to start adjusting our budget in response. So we projected for no growth, which was good, but in the meantime, we're also intending to try to see increase in growth. So we put a lot of time and effort into looking at how we are marketing our school. And with virtually no budget for this year, I think Sierra Chavez, who stepped in just to help us with marketing, she's a freelance marketer. She works for other companies at the same time and took a very small contract with us, as you guys know, for marketing services. But her work has been excellent. And our metrics here are like looking at how many views are we getting on our Facebook? How often are people jumping over to our website from it? What was our number one top performing content? These student spotlights, by and large, get the most traffic on there when we're spotlighting students, events, things like this. It's just something that we can't, like, there's nothing else that we post, no matter how cool I might think it is or someone else might, that attracts views and clicks like students do. This one, this boosted content that is Summit Extravaganza, I have to tell you that it was a phenomenal turnout at this event. I think the day of, we sort of didn't know. So this is the first year we have tried doing orientation this style. So normally parents essentially don't hear much from the school other than from the enrollment team between the time of the lottery in March to the time of when school starts, the beginning of the next school year. So last year we said, let's do a mandatory orientation for parents, that they come and they have to attend one of the sessions to help talk them through it, but then it's some kind of engagement with them to get them to onto the campus and meeting our administrators as new families, because our hope is that that long period of silence between March and July doesn't lead to them deciding to go elsewhere. We want to keep ourselves in front of them enough that they say, yeah, this is the place I want to be. So we did that in two ways. There's a new newsletter that I write called Field Notes. It goes out to only new families for the school. I've sent sort of 4 so far, about every other week is about my pacing on those to get out to them. But it's just updates to information, advertising events like this. I do small little snippets of the school model or of what's happening in public education. The next one will go out probably later on Friday of this week or early next week. But the other one was this summer extravaganza. It was the idea of Anthony Branch, our principal at the mid-high, and he said, what if instead of orientation where people show up and it's like info session 2.0, they come in and get a PowerPoint presentation, what if we had people that they could meet, food trucks that were present, make it feel a lot more like our fall carnival or our welcome back bash, just something that feels more engaging for families. So we put it out there. We let Sierra help guide the direction of getting the summer extravaganza off the ground. And the day of the extravaganza, which was on the 2nd of June, we received an email about 11 o'clock saying 40 people had RSVP'd that they would attend. So I talked to the team. I said, it's going to be okay. Even if there's not a lot of people, it's the first time doing this event. And Karen was there. I don't know if you want to venture a guess as to how many people showed up. It was well over 40.
200.
Yeah, maybe 200 people. Like, it was really well attended. And our 6th and 7th grade orientation sessions were so huge, they had to separate them into 2 classrooms. And even then, people were sort of in the halls trying to overhear. So we definitely know we need to curve into this for next year. But we had Page One Books was one of our vendors that was present. Lakeshore Learning was present. We had food trucks in the parking lot. Added Up was there to sell shirts, and I saw kids walking around with their uniform shirts on their shoulders, and like, it was just a way to sort of get them into and engaging with the school. We had things that were set up, so our enrollment team had tables set up. We had Annie White, who's the nurse over at the Rio Rancho School. She came down with our health assistant and helped answer questions about vaccination cards. Karen was there helping to volunteer with PTO. So just directors were present. We let the principals just walk around and shake hands. I did an info presentation, but it was very well attended, and it was very cool. And I liked how much of a turnout there was. I love that we had vendors there. This is definitely something that we want to repeat in years moving forward. The hope was that we bring families in who haven't signed up for the school yet, that might be friends of those who have. That was sort of the word of mouth campaign we were trying with this. I had one family that came to my info session. I don't believe the K-5 had any attend. But I also think as families walk around, and there was a post of the aftermath of it, just a video sort of panning the flex room with all the families there. And one parent, I think, commented on Facebook, what a great way to make us feel like a community at the school, something to that effect. So it was really, it was great. And we boosted this content. You can see that we had a lot of views on this, and people sort of engaged with it. So this was our work to get families to be present at the school and engaging in that way. The thing that I would share out that was part of our finance committee discussion was that on top of the $10,000 grant that we received from the state, I got an email from Dr. Russell, and she was ambiguous, but ambiguity led to generosity, so I'm fine with that. That she just emailed and said, hey, we have some more money available for your marketing grant if you'd like some. And I said, of course. When do we have to spend it by? She said June 5th. I said, well, it's the 2nd. I don't think we can spend it that quickly unless you can find a way to work. So she reached out to the, I'm going to forget the acronym, Karen, I apologize. It's the SWREC, I think is the group. And she reached out to them, and they pushed the deadline to the 17th. So I said, well, we have this thing that we sat in on a sales pitch for, which is targeted Amazon advertising through the Amazon product. So it's through Prime and through shopping and Prime Video and KRQE. We met with KRQE. We were on the New Mexico Living with them, and we met at that meeting with them. And they pitched it, but it's $6,000 a month to participate in that. And I was like, man, that's pricey. So when we heard there was money, I said, well, you're not really giving me a budget, so I'm going to throw this your way. We would love to do this if we could. And within 24 hours, we got you're approved $36,000 for 6 months of targeted Amazon advertising. MOU was sent our way, and we started working on making sure POs were in place because what we're doing is purchasing this at $6,000 a month for the next 6 months, and then they do have a $3,500 a month version of it that I spoke with Whitney this morning about, and said this takes us through the end of November, which will help us with marketing through the summer. It'll help us with marketing leading up to 40th day, and it almost starts edging into marketing for next year's lottery when we start opening applications in December. So I think if we choose to take our marketing budget and augment those 6 months for another 3 or 4 months afterwards, if we feel like the payoff is worth it. But man, it's essentially 36,000 from the state to experiment with this very unique 21st century, way over my head, technologically speaking, form of advertising. So I was floored, and I thank Dr. Russell for reaching out to us. I thank the team for approving it and moving quickly so that we can try this. And we really are hoping that by the time we get to where we need to be on the 40th day, we're well above our 1418, and we have a nice buffer, and we can look to actually getting some additional revenue from exceeding our projected numbers as opposed to reducing revenue for not hitting. That's our goal. So,
Jake, question
yeah.
for the notes. Is it an additional 36 on top of the 10 you already got, or is it? Okay, thanks.
Yep, an additional 36 on top of the 10. So total award was 46,000.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really surprised me, and I appreciated their willingness to do that. So, in addition, something that I want in terms of hiring, because this is the time of year where people are starting to sort of head off into breaks, I just wanted the board to know we're working on some special ed hiring, but for the most part, we've got a new assistant principal in Karen Cassidy joining us at the 6 through 12 school. She's sort of functioned as admin support when the assistant principal, we did, as you recall, part of the RIF process, as we had a dean of students that we had moved the assistant principal Sonia Carrillo down to dean of students to have her take over that role. She ended up just choosing a different path, which was fine. But in the meantime, we had to help out Anthony and Candace, who essentially went from a dean of students and 3 admin to just the 2 admin. So our new dean of students, Candace McLean, has been amazing. And Karen Cassidy accepted the position to be assistant principal for next year. So we're back to a full team moving forward. And at the elementary school, Jennifer continues to do a great job and has her team hired, with the exception of one person in the special education department that she's working on. But as you all may have heard, APS did a lot of cuts this year. They had about, I think what I heard was about 300 positions they cut, while they're also continuing to work in the red on their budget. So we were the silver lining to that is the recipients of some really good applications this year for people who just, their positions were eliminated. So instructional coaches gone and health assistants gone, and so they're all looking for work, and we were able to sort of reap the rewards of that system. So hiring is mostly done. The last thing I'll touch base on, because I did mention it and it was included in my end of year reflection, is our end of year performance data. This is not the official end of year data. I believe that's still under lock and key right now. This is how our final interim assessment at the end of the year performance data came out. So this is this was already posted for you guys to see. But overall, we did great. You know, one of the biggest concerns that parents had was if the switch to the 4-day week would result in lower academic achievement. Our 3rd grade went from a 13% of students who were on target to 44 by the end of the year, which was a great jump. Again, we exceeded the growth measures from our school to New Mexico. Similar kinds of jumps for 3rd grade in language. Math, which terrified me at the beginning of the year, had a 1% on target for those students. They went to a 29%, which was again outpaced what the state was doing, about 10% better growth rate
Jake,
in the state.
are you sharing a report? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
Or are you
sorry.
just reading off of something?
I was reading off of it. I can screen share. I apologize.
No, I just didn't know if you thought you were or not.
There we go. Fourth grade, we had similar kinds of jumps that we went from 39 to 62% in reading, 47 to 65% on target in language, and 14 to 38% for math. And you can see sort of what I compared out here, what our beginning of year end of year, and then state end of year, and then what they refer to just as the growth percentage of expected and above expected for the state as well as for Explore Academy. So continued to do well. And then in fifth grade, reading took a 1% dip. And I remember when we were talking at some point middle of year that Patrick mentioned that statistically speaking, that might just be your standard deviation. So it may not mean that students went down. It might just mean in the deviation, that's kind of where it landed. Our female students, however, did go down. There was some shifting in population, which may have accounted for it, but that was a drop, and Native American students had dropped as well. But then in language and in math, they did well. The single biggest drop was within sixth grade in reading. So our sixth grade reading went from a 53% on target to a 38% end of year, which is floored me a bit. The state end of year was at 27, so we still exceeded the state end of year, but our growth was a percent lower than the state's growth rate. And you can see drops in every subcategory that from female students, male students, Hispanic students, Black, Native American stayed the same, special ed drops, and economically disadvantaged drop. Those scores still exceeded the state end of year scores in each subcategory except for our Black students. I did reach out because I wanted to reach out to our curriculum and instruction team, and I asked the question, like, so at mid-year when there was a slight dip, it had gone from like 53% to 47, and I had sent an email back in January saying we got to figure out how to address it. I think they felt that the challenge of not having the same level of PLC time because of the 4-day week was difficult because they didn't have that kind of direct time with teachers. In my assessment of what happened, I don't think that teacher coaching happened at the level that it should have as a response to this, and that was sort of evident in the lack of, in their reply, a discussion of what happened regarding coaching teachers. So it was, I spoke to our entire curriculum and instruction team, our director, as well as our instructional coach and our admin, and said, this is what the numbers are. The data doesn't lie here, and we need to figure out why. Longitudinally speaking, our reading scores for the last 5 years have always dropped. They have always ended the year lower than they began the year. I've asked the team to consider, we're going to be in our summer leadership retreat tomorrow and Thursday, and I've asked the team to consider why they think that is. Is it testing fatigue and kids get to the end and reading passages are just like, let's click and move on? Is it that we see shifts in population? Because this was isolated within beginning of year to end of year, I don't think this was a big enough shift in population to account for that. And over the years, this seems to be a consistent thing. So we need to figure out how to solve this particular problem. And again, this is not how our school is graded. This is not our VISTAS report data. But to me, it's supposed to be a predictor of our VISTAS report. So now I'm sort of waiting on pins and needles to see how the NMASA data ends up. And again, annually for the last 5 years, we've always seen a little bit of a dip like this, but I think it's time for us to take a concerted effort at saying we need to figure out why that's happening. Because as you can see, it's isolated there. Sixth grade language went up, probably more like maintenance. It was 1 point, but math jumped up and we exceeded state averages. Seventh grade saw maybe statistical averaging from 48 to 49 and 52 to 53, but our growth definitely jumped higher than what the state's growth did. And then math from 36 to 41. And then in eighth grade, jumps, a great jump at language, a good jump in reading, and another nice jump within math, and again, exceeding state averages on things. So end of year, I think academically we did very strong. We continue to outpace the state. I do think we could get better. I have, just as the head administrator, having been in classrooms in the spring, we're going to have to work on rigor in our middle school. That was made evident, is that I think we see a really strong fifth grade class that moves up, but they are 70 kids compared to a sixth grade enrollment of 210. So they're only a third of our incoming sixth graders. And we have to figure out how to close that gap for the other 2/3 that are coming from different elementary schools. So it is a topic of conversation on our mind. And I know that the school administration is wanting to see if we can get a reading specialist hired. And I said, we're going to have to think numbers because I don't want to just throw money at a problem. I want to see, is there more that could be happening within classroom instruction, within coaching support for our new teachers before we say, you got to have an interventionist in there, not to downplay the role interventionists play at our school. So It was not as happy of an end of year academic report as I would like to see, but really the one that will matter will come out over the summer as we see kind of how did we perform that will eventually impact our Vistas report and our school ranking.
Thank you, Jake. Just coming from a parent, and in terms of reading scores and school scores, we got an email from one of the teachers from our eighth grader going into summer at the end of the term, just saying, hey, over the summer, these are the things you can work on and the things that might help your child to improve next year, which I thought was a great approach to the end of the year, and useful to show our student too. So we appreciate teachers are doing a great job, and it sounds like you're making some good progress. Do you have any other comments or questions, Jan or Dottie?
No.
Okay. So what you have on our agenda under item B, construction projects update, and I don't believe that Ralph is with us. Is there anything that you are aware of that we need to know about, Jake?
I can share that there was one final approval left that Mick Rich and his team told Ralph, if you can approve, there was a thing with flooring that they essentially, if they're going to start installing flooring, they have to install it now. But that means that they're going to have to use their scissor lift to install the last of like the basketball hoops and sound barriers and things. And there is a process to do it that helps protect the floor when they move the scissor lift in. And Ralph and I spoke and we said, eventually we're going to have to use the scissor lift on that floor anyway. So you might as well let them do it, watch how they do it, see what materials they're using to protect the flooring. Because when we're changing light bulbs and fixing speakers or getting up there for whatever reason, it's nice to see it. Their guarantee, knock on wood, their guarantee was that this would give us a July 15th total completion, gym, black box theater, concessions area. Kids start back the 21st. I said joking, half not joking to Ralph, I said, please let Mick Rich and his team know that if on the 21st when parents show up, if that work is not complete, I will personally share their contact information with all of our parents so they can reach out and let them know what they think about that delay over the summer. There shouldn't be any further delays for it. I'm a little bit frustrated it's taken as long as it has. In addition, some of the work that you all approved from the bond deal, we've been meeting with Doug Heller and his team to begin designing the additional learning space and classrooms at the Galton campus. That process has been an absolute delight. Doug is fantastic to sit and work with, and I think what we're coming up with is pretty special. And we did a little flip-flopping on the actual design of it so that we can not only get a cool new learner space for kids, but we can revamp, revitalize, and build a new staff lounge for our teachers who had their staff lounge reduced in half to make room for offices because we need offices. So we're able to sort of accommodate a new learning space, 8 offices that we're in desperate need of, and a great new staff lounge, sort of more modern design for our teachers that give them windows. They want windows. And they have no windows in their staff lounge right now, so they're kind of in a cave. So we're going to give them windows and make that something special for them. And in addition, we were able to find a way to also include what we're referring to now playfully as the staff's English garden outside of where they're building the new classrooms, because there's this little piece of land that essentially is going to be revamped, but there's no designation for it. And I said they need a secondary place to sit outside amongst the fresh air and under what would have been a tree had we not had to cut it down for classrooms, but they need a space outside that's separated from kids. And so I'm looking forward to it. We're really just at the design phase where they don't plan to submit any plans to the city until probably November to get those things approved. So July 15th for gym, black box, and concessions, and then probably you won't hear again about construction until November when we're moving forward with the plans at Galton.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the update. Karen, that brings us to... Sorry,
I failed to mention that there is a little bit of work being done at the summer at Masthead to get a library, a more substantial library in one of the classroom spaces. They're essentially they're making a different staff lounge for them and turning the staff lounge into a library like Julie Hill has dreamed of on that campus. She's former librarian and has just been chomping at the bit to get something there. So that's going to be worked on, as well as a little very minor construction piece inside the flex room so that we have an Amira station. Amira is one where you read out loud, and doing it in a room full of kids, it's been messing up our Amira data. So we need sort of a smaller space that we can close a door and let kids do it quiet. So that will also be happening over the summer.
Great. Any other questions or thoughts, comments? Okay. Karen, that brings us to 7C. Do you have any updates or reminders that you would like to share?
Just the normal monthly update is linked on the agenda. Let me know if you have any questions or want someone to come to a future meeting to just explain that. Just take a look at what we're all doing as directors. I also have a congratulations because I think everyone has completed or exceeded their required training for the governing board training this year and looking good. Everybody has completed more than the minimum or more than that, and in each area as required. So thank you for that. And then just that next month, be prepared for annual officer elections as well as the OMA resolution. So if you want to change in meeting days or times and or decide on who wants which role as an officer. So
Okay,
that's it.
thank you. So that brings us to board comments. Jan and Dottie, do either of you have any comments or news or announcements to share?
I just want to thank you, Heather, for conducting the meeting tonight. You did a beautiful job.
Thanks for your patience. And I fixed the echo problem, so I'm sure you're all really glad about that.
Good job,
We
Heather.
have, I don't think we have any public in the waiting room, do we, Karen? Anyone attending the meeting still?
We do not.
Okay, so we do not have any public comments, which brings us to the adjournment for our meeting. Thank you so much for everyone being here, and Jake for all of your work and for sitting through the meeting. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.